Hey guys! In this episode of Let's Face It, we'll cover preparing low and high poly models for baking in Substance Painter, and lastly, baking. A Looney Tune will have the honors of demonstrating the process. If you're interested in seeing the sculpting process, which isn't covered here, please check previous videos, such as Bugs Bunny, Speedy Gonzales, or any of the realistic portrait videos. Okay, let's start. To bake high poly information onto the low poly, our low poly model will need to have UVs. I already created the UVs for the most of the character in Maya, but I unwrapped Saliva in ZBrush just because it was quicker and I didn't really care for optimizing UV space, since it will be a semi-transparent object in the end. So most of the effect will be driven just by transparency, while roughness and metalness will stay uniform. For any handles in the mesh which form loops, I chop them up by assigning different polygroups to them. I didn't really chop up the mesh. These polygroups are then used to drive the texture seams and to make it easier for UV Master to calculate. Make sure polygroups is turned on and then press unwrap. Depending on the complexity and density of the mesh, this might take shorter or longer time to finish. If ZBrush freezes, just give it some time. Next step will be naming. We want to name our low poly objects with the same names as our high poly objects, but the difference will be the suffix. Low poly will have the suffix underscore low and high poly underscore high. We'll do this for each of the elements. This will make a connection between them when we get to baking in Substance Painter. For the high poly, we can rename the subtools directly in ZBrush and export them all together as a single FBX file. Let's open Maya now and import our low polys and rename them with the underscore low suffix. By the way, I made UVs in Maya for the most of the character when this wasn't planned to be released as a breakdown video. I used the basic approach though, marking edges to separate UV islands, converting them to seams, and then pressing unwrap. To make sure all islands of each texture set have same textile density, I selected one and in the UV Toolkit menu went to Transform and pressed Get. Then selected all the other UV islands and pressed Set. Now, following logic, I've applied different materials to various groups of models and named them accordingly. This is not mandatory, but it is useful to have an option of isolating parts in Substance Painter for better overview as you're texturing. In object mode, first you select the objects that you'd like grouped under the same material and then right-click and assign new material. Last step in Maya, selecting all of the objects in object mode, then press Unlock Normals and then Soften Edges. This will smooth out the normals. Then export them all as a single FBX through Export Selected. With all of these ingredients, we can finally go to Substance Painter to do some cooking. I'll first import low poly FBX we just exported, and I'll leave all the settings as they are, for now. On the right side, under Texture Set List, notice how we have layers based on our Maya materials. Now we can open up texture settings and plug in the high poly to bake from. And perhaps change the texture size through output size to 2K. Since all objects have a suffix either high or low, under match, we can turn on by mesh name, so that on baking the texture information is picked up only from high poly meshes with the same name, and we avoid any baking artifacts that could be caused by meshes being too close to each other or intersecting. When everything is ready, you can bake. And now you can enjoy texturing. If you're interested in a more detailed tutorial with step-by-step texturing, please check my Gumroad. Till next time.